Good evening. I'm joining you tonight as your Premier and fellow Albertan to talk about an issue that is critical to our province and country. Owing to decades of failure and inaction by successive federal governments, Albertans are unable to transport much of the oil that we produce to market through modern, well-regulated pipelines. As a result, we must sell our oil at a discounted price. In the last few weeks, this price gap has reached historic highs because we are producing considerably more product than there is transport capacity. This is creating a huge backlog and forcing the price of our oil to ridiculously low levels. We are essentially giving away our oil for free. Roughly speaking, while everyone else around the world is able to sell their oil for $50 a barrel, we in Alberta are selling it for $10 a barrel. This is not sustainable. Now, over the last 2 years, Alberta has climbed out of a deep recession. Our economy is growing again, and jobs are returning. But this price gap threatens that recovery, and it must be addressed. And let me be clear. To those Canadians listening from outside Alberta tonight, this is not just about Alberta's recovery. It is about the economic well-being of the entire country. So far, the government of Alberta is acting on many fronts, which I will describe in a moment. But let me start with what we all know to be true. Our energy resources belong to us, to each and every Albertan. They are our natural inheritance, defended by those who came before and handed down to us in trust. We have a duty to defend these resources, protecting them for our children and our children's children. So let me tell you how we are doing that. First, we are not letting up on our fight to build new pipelines. Over the last 3 years, I have carried that fight to every corner of the country. And I'm pleased to say that a strong and growing majority of Canadians support new pipelines. Billions of dollars that should be going to create jobs and support schools and hospitals are being lost. And most fair-minded Canadians understand that this is fiscal and economic insanity. And I can promise you, our fight will not end until it's won. Second, we must take long overdue steps to upgrade and refine our energy products here at home. My whole life, I have heard conversation after conversation about how we don't get enough value and jobs from our oil and gas. When I became Premier, I knew that we had to take action so that our grandchildren would not be having that same conversation 30 years from now. So we did. Right now, for example, just north of Edmonton, a new upgrading plant is being built by thousands of Alberta workers that will turn Alberta gas into upgraded products. But we can and we must do more. 2 weeks ago, I announced a Made in Alberta upgrading strategy that provides new support to industry to build more plants and upgrade more product. Interest has been overwhelming. People are eager to invest, and I will have more to say about that in the coming weeks. Third, over the medium term, we must take action to clear the backlog and get our oil to market, one way or another. This is key. As I speak, many companies in Alberta's energy sector face a cash flow crisis that threatens thousands of jobs, and that's not acceptable to me. And that is why, earlier this week, I announced that the province of Alberta is acquiring upwards of 7,000 new rail cars to transport our oil. Now, this new rail capacity will start coming online late next year, and when it does, we will get a higher price for our product. To those who oppose new pipelines and want to hurt Alberta workers by stopping them, you might want to think about that the next time you're held up at a rail crossing. So, for the long term, we are fighting for new pipelines and investing in more upgrading. And for the medium term, we are buying new rail cars to provide additional certainty. However, with the price gap at historic highs, that still leaves us with a short-term problem that must be fixed. Many companies and market analysts have called for a temporary reduction in the amount of oil we produce in order to stabilize the market and increase the price of oil. Recently, I appointed 3 envoys to meet with energy leaders to work on short-term solutions. They reported back that there isn't agreement among producers on a voluntary solution. And so, we are left with a very difficult decision. Whether to impose a short-term curtailment in production aimed at stabilizing the market and protecting jobs, or whether we watch from the sidelines and hope for the best. In making this decision, I'm reminded that when confronted with serious threats to our jobs and industry in the past, governments have used their authority to defend the province. Now let me pause here to thank the other parties in our legislature, in particular, the Alberta Party and the UCP, for their constructive and thoughtful contributions to this discussion. This issue transcends partisan politics. And so, after listening carefully to industry leaders, experts, and Albertans, here's what I have decided to do. Beginning on January 1st, the province of Alberta will mandate an across-the-board reduction of 325,000 barrels per day in production, or roughly 8.7%. I want to be clear. This is a short-term measure, and over the course of the year, the curtailment amount will drop. This is being done through regulation and ministerial order. We will review the amount every month and will adjust as needed, so as not to reduce production more than is necessary. In addition, experts throughout the industry will work with us and the Alberta Energy Regulator to refine the rules as needed to make sure there are no unintended consequences. And we will implement specific measures to make sure that our smallest producers are treated fairly. Now let me say, in Alberta we believe that markets are the best way to set prices. But when the markets aren't working, when companies are forced to sell our resources for pennies on the dollar, then we have a responsibility to act, a responsibility to defend our province and our resources. By spreading the curtailment in a careful way among all producers, industry and investors can be assured that the curtailment is short-term and will gradually decrease while the price per barrel slowly recovers. As such, jobs will be protected. So to recap, over many years, successive governments in Ottawa have failed to build new pipelines. This is now resulting in a historically low price for our oil. We are giving it away for next to nothing. This is hurting jobs and Alberta's economic recovery. In the short term, we are curtailing production to raise the price and protect jobs. In the medium term, we are also buying new rail cars to clear the backlog and stabilize the market. But my fellow Albertans, if we are going to solve this problem once and for all, the low price era must end, and a high value era must begin. We have to diversify our energy sector, open new markets, and get more value and more jobs from resources we own and will give to our children. We face a difficult challenge, but I can promise you that in confronting this challenge, we will draw on the best traditions of our province and the values we share: compassion, community, and the recognition that at the end of the day, we are all in this together. Those values built this province, and they keep us moving forward. Let me assure you, we will never back down in our fight to protect our jobs, our resources, and our province. And I will never stop fighting for Alberta, fighting for Canada, and fighting for you. Thank you, and good night.